Since coming to the United States, she has been a member of the LSA of Minneapolis. She served as a member of Minneapolis Area Women's Committee and is part of the University of Minnesota Speakers Bureau. I'd like to introduce Nadjla Samadani Birkeland.
Allah Hapa. God is all glorious. This is so beautiful, it's so radiant to look at your faces. I would like to dedicate this talk to Khadija Begum, the wife of the Blessed Bab, the prophet, forerunner of the Baha'i faith. Later, during my presentation, I'm going to talk about her glorious life. But this morning, I would like to focus our vision on the universal peace and the equality of man and woman, and the role of the women in establishing this international peace. I know many of you have read the Statement on Peace from Universal House of Justice, the governing body of Baha'i faith, international governing body of the Baha'i faith, and also the compilation on women, with quotations from Baha'i writings about women, from cover to cover. I know you have done that, many of you. But I don't think so many of us had the vision that to try to vision this, all thousands of us together. And this morning, I would like to focus more, how are we going to establish this? I can talk from my own experience that reading this Statement on Peace and the compilation on women, I have been trying to focus that how are we going to do it? What is the formula and how it's going to look like? Before I go further, I would like to mention that this talk is not being just addressed to the women. It's to all of us, because all of us are going through this transition period. And as you know, Universal House of Justice, they have stated that age-old longing of mankind for achieving universal peace now within our reach, and indeed is inevitable. And we know that the equality of man and woman is one of the most important, though less acknowledged. And also, we know this equality of man and woman is special, as Abdul Baha says, is peculiar to the teachings of Baha'u'llah. Because all the past religions, they have put man above woman. So we know this fact, and this has been my question. How are we going to do it? And as you know, Abdul Baha has said, this is the century of light and the revelation of mysteries. The realities of things have been revealed in this radiant age, and that which is true must come to the surface. And among these realities, that it has to come to the surface is the principle of the equality of man and women. As I mentioned, I have been thinking how, what for. It was very interesting that I came across a letter from Ruhiya Khanum that she wrote 30 years ago. In that letter, Ruhiya Khanum says, first there must be a spirit, then the form. This one sentence really helped me to be able to focus and have the vision that how we are going to have this. Because all these beautiful quotations that I was reading, I was getting overwhelmed that what a responsibility we have and how are we going to do it. And I know Abdul Baha has promised that we are going to reach But how? I was trying to figure it out in my own life. But this one sentence just kind of comforted me, that first we must have spirit, and then it will come. And after this, it really, every other quote that I read, I read it with a different vision. I would like to share a hidden word from Baha'u'llah. That the Baha'u'llah says, "O son of my handmaid, sow the seeds of my divine wisdom in the pure soul of the heart, and water them with the waters of certitude, that the hyacinths of knowledge and wisdom may spring up fresh and green from the holy city of heart." Isn't this beautiful? It seems that it just explains how easy it is. At the same time, it just proves it, that it has to come from inner being, and it starts from the individual. The responsibility is in the shoulder of every one of us. Baha'u'llah is telling us, if we sow the seed of His divine wisdom in our pure heart, we should be sure that the beautiful flowers, the fragrant hyacinths will come up, and that is His wisdom and knowledge that will follow. I would like to share a quote from Baha'u'llah again. From Abdul Baha. That again, Abdul Baha explains about our station. I would like to ask my friend Baki Rice to read the quote for us. Yeah. Try it again.
No. Okay, we have it now. Thanks. Purity and chastity have been and still are the most great ornaments for the handmaidens of God. God is my witness. The brightness of the light of chastity sheddeth its illumination upon the worlds of the Spirit, and its fragrance is wafted even unto the most exalted paradise. God hath verily made chastity to be a crown for the heads of His handmaidens. Great is the blessedness of that handmaiden that hath attained unto this great station.
Isn't this beautiful? Baha'u'llah is asking us women to wear a crown. And as you know, most of us women love to wear an ornament. And what ornament He is wishing for us to wear? Chastity and purity. As I promised earlier, I'm going to talk about the women that she was wearing this crown. And I know my words are so weak and inadequate to talk about her spiritual life. But believe me, I'm going to try my best. Her name was Khadija Begum, and she was the wife of the Blessed Bab. She grew up in Shiraz, a beautiful city in Iran. That city is famous for the beautiful roses. And if you go during the month of April and May to Iran and travel to Shiraz, the smell of roses, it makes that city just like a paradise. Khadija Begum grew up with Blessed Bab, Sayyid Ali Muhammad. They were neighbors and a playmate. And they were very close in age. Later in her life, she had a dream about Sayyid Ali Muhammad. And in that dream, she saw Sayyid Ali Muhammad walking in a beautiful plain with colorful and fragrant flowers. And his face was so radiant and wearing a beautiful labbadi, the overcoat, which the Quranic verses was written with the threads of gold. Quran is the holy book of Islam, and the verses from that book was embroidered with the gold threads in his coat. When she woke up, she told about her dream to her mother. And during that, the Blessed Bab, I think he must have been around 16 years old then. Years later, she had another dream. She saw the Fatima, the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, came to her dream and she asked for her hand to marry her son, Imam Hussein. This was a tradition in Iran, that the mother of the groom goes to the house of the bride and asks the parents of the bride if they will let their daughter to marry the son. So when Khadija Begum had this dream that the Fatima, the daughter of Prophet Muhammad, came and asked for her hand to marry Imam Hussein, as you know, Imam Hussein was the martyr. When she woke up, she told to her mother, and her mother was overjoyed. She said, my daughter is going to marry a very spiritual individual. That the very same day, the mother of Sayyid Ali Muhammad, the Bab, came to the house of Khadija Begum and asked mother of Khadija Begum if they will let Khadija Begum to marry Sayyid Ali Muhammad, the Bab. Her mother couldn't believe it. She turned to Khadija Begum. She told her, your dream that you had last night has become reality. They are asking you to marry the blessed Bab. Khadija Begum recalls that after she heard the news, she felt that the gates of God's mercy and love had opened before her face. She couldn't believe her good fortune. After the 2 months that they prepared for their wedding, she became a wife of the blessed Bab. And she writes that blessed Bab and his mother, she says that they showered me with their kindness and care. And she says, I can't describe it, how kind they were to me, how loving they were toward me. But shortly after she was married to the blessed Bab, she had another vision. When she explained her vision to her husband told her, that means that our life together is not going to last more than 2.5 years. Khadija Begum was distressed. But her husband's affection and kind words consoled her. The blessed Bab prepared her to accept every adversity in the path of God. 2 years after they were married, the blessed Bab declared his mission as the promised one. And as you know, the year was 1844. After Bab declared his mission, you know that he had to leave Shiraz, and then he was imprisoned and martyred. When they martyred Bab, he was only 31 years old. And when he declared his mission, he was only 25. Khadija Begum recognized at the earliest dawn of his revelation the glory and uniqueness of his mission, and felt from the beginning the intensity of its force. She also recognized Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. And as you know, Baha'u'llah was exiled from Iran, and he used to send the tablets addressed to Khadija Begum. In fact, when the early believers, they went to prison city of Akka to visit Baha'u'llah, Baha'u'llah used to send tokens and the gifts, and as I mentioned, tablets to Khadija Begum. One time, Baha'u'llah sent a book that it was written by the handwritings of Zainul Mugharabi, the famous Baha'i calligrapher. Another time, Baha'u'llah sent a ring and a shirt that Baha'u'llah has worn himself. And another time, a handkerchief of Baha'u'llah and a turban, a cloth that the Baha'u'llah wore around his Taj, the headgear. Khadija Begum longed to travel to Akka and to have the bounty of attaining of the presence of Baha'u'llah, in whose path her husband had gladly offered his life. And the Baha'u'llah granted Khadija Begum's request. But because of the circumstances, she couldn't do it. As you know, it was impossible the past century for the women to travel alone. And when she realized this is not going to be possible, she's not going to the presence of Baha'u'llah in this world, she became so broken-hearted that she became ill and passed away. Do you know what was the day? September 15th, 1882. Exactly 106 years ago. As we contemplate the life of this heroic, steadfast woman, ennobled by her instant recognitions of both Ba and the Baha'u'llah, sadness gives way to pride and praise, and to the tranquility of words with which her beloved husband closed his letter to her. Peace be upon thee, and the mercy of God and his blessings. Reading about the life of Khadija Begum and other heroines of our faith, and the early believers and the martyr in our cause, gives us a new vision, a new dimension, the new horizon in life that we can focus. And again, it's easier for us to see the spirit first and be assured that the form is going to follow. It's really delightful when we think about it, what it has happened to the world of women for this past century and a half. As the history shows, for thousands and thousands of years, the women, they have always lived the same. And it's just kind of overwhelming to know we are the race that we are going through this change and this transition. And you know, sometimes transitions are not the most quiet and peaceful time. And sometimes, us women, we feel that we have a greater burden. It is true, we do. Abdul Baha says that the woman is indeed of a greater importance to the race. She has the greater burden and the greater work. She has also a special gift which enables her to govern in the moment of danger and crisis. So again, God is just. He has given us the greater burden and the greater work, but He has given us a special gift. And also we know, Abdul Baha says, in some respect, women is superior to men. She is more tender-hearted, more receptive. Her intuition is more intense. Reading this compilation, I found a quotation that I have never seen before. And you know what was that quotation? In that quotation, Abdul Baha says that women are going to have extraordinary privileges. Try to vision that one. Extraordinary privileges. What is that going to be? Well, I would like you to please share the quote from Abdul Baha. Yeah. No, it's not.
Now we've got it. When the women attain to the ultimate degree of progress, then according to the exigency of time and place and their great capacity, they shall obtain extraordinary privileges. Be ye confident on these accounts.
Thank you. Universal House of Justice reminds us the solution that is given by Baha'u'llah for the equality of man and woman. The solution is not that the man to become like a woman and the woman to become like a man. Abdul Baha has given us the key to the solution. What is that key? Abdul Baha has said the qualities and the function of the man and woman, they complement each other. I think that is very important to remember that in this society, many parts of the world, they don't talk about the equality of man and woman as much. We hear about it in this society. But we have to realize the way we look at it as a Baha'is is quite different. We look at it that the qualities and the function complement each other. They are not the same. And again, Abdul Baha says, in this new age, the masculine and feminine element of civilization is going to be properly balanced. So if we feel something is not right, it's true, it's not right, it's going to be properly balanced in the near future. Did you know that Abdul Baha talked about the women's liberation in America?
Lead the sun. In America, the cradle of women's liberation, women are still debarred from political institutions because they squabble. You need to be calm and composed so that the work will proceed with wisdom. Otherwise, there will be such chaos that ye will leave everything and run away. This newly born babe, in traversing in one night the path that needeth 100 years to tread. In brief, ye should now engage in matters of pure spirituality and not contend with men. Abdul Baha will tactfully take appropriate steps. Be assured, in the end thou wilt thyself exclaim, this was indeed supreme wisdom. I appeal to you to obliterate this contention between men and women.
These quotes, most of them are from the compilation on women. So what is Abdul Baha is asking us to be calm and content. And if we are not, what happens? He's exactly saying what is happening in the society around us. And again, Abdul Baha is asking us, spirit before the form. In brief, Abdul Baha says, ye should now engage in the matters of pure spirituality, and not content with man. So again, in our everyday life, we should really try to focus. Is it the spirituality or is the form? Which one is it? And again, is the responsibility on the shoulder of each individual. Talking about the women's liberation, I would like to talk about the first martyr for the woman's right. Her name was Tahireh, means the pure one. A young poetess of outstanding beauty and intelligence. She was called Persian Joan of Arc. She had a gift of eloquent speech, and she was one of the first to believe in the blessed Bab. She was an extraordinary woman. I wish I could talk about her, but I think it's not possible in this brief presentation. But I would like to mention a few things about her life that is astonishing. In the year 1848, the first women's conference was held in Upper State, New York. And that was the very first movement in the United States history that they had such a conference for women's rights. And that was as I said, the first movement for women's suffrage in America. It's interesting to know, very same year that conference was being held in Upper State, New York, in 1848, 4 years after the declaration of Bab, in a tiny hamlet of Badasht in Iran, there was another conference that the believers in Bab, they gathered together to have a first conference. And as you know, Baha'u'llah was in that conference. And Tahirah, the pure one, attended that conference. In that conference, she took off her veil. And that was the custom in Iran for the women to cover their face up to their toe with the garment. And she came to that conference taking off her chador, as we call it, the veil. And that was symbolic to remind this is the new age and the women are free from the bondage, from the chain that they have had for centuries and the thousands of years. Shortly after that conference, in fact 4 years after that conference, Tahirah was killed because of her beliefs. Interesting enough, the same year that they martyred Tahirah in Iran, in 1852, what happened? The second women's conference for women's rights was being held in Upper State, New York. So do you think these are significant? And God knows exactly what is happening, what is, Iran and United States always in this history. That something happens in Iran and something else in the United States, and the history will show how. There were a special historical link between the life of Tahirah and the mother teacher of American Baha'i community. Her name was Lua Getzinger. Why there was a special historical link? Because Tahirah was, as I mentioned, she was killed in Iran in 1852. Exactly 9 years after, what happened? Lua Getzinger was born in Upper State, New York. Not any other state, the Upper State, New York, where the first women's conference was held. Abdul Baha asked Lua Getzinger to be the counterpart of Tahirah in America. She had a very spiritual mother, this Lua. When her mother was expecting, when she was pregnant for Lua, she had a dream. And she was always trying to search, to know more about God, about His messenger, more about Bible. And it seems that her zeal for the knowledge of religion was at its peak. So when Lua was born, what happened? This child is very spiritual and gifted. She grew up in a farm in Upper State, New York. And after she graduated from high school, because she had a beautiful singing voice, she wanted to continue in a dramatic arts. And she decided to go to Chicago, while everybody was thinking she's going to go to New York, because that was the place to go to study the dramatic arts with her talent and a beautiful voice for singing. In fact, her friend used to tease her, why are you going to Chicago? After all, the Broadway is in New York, not in Chicago. She said, you are right, but I don't know what it is. There is some inner force. It's pulling me towards Chicago. And as you know, the faith was first mentioned in this country in Chicago. Year was 1893 at the Parliament of the World Religion. And Lua became one of the first believers in this country. She became Baha'i in 1894, and she dedicated her life to this faith. And she served this faith ceaselessly. They are announcing I have 10 minutes. I'm going to be okay. So up to her premature death in 1960, she served this faith, and she passed away in Egypt. And as I mentioned, she dedicated her life to the faith. She taught the faith in America, in Asia, in Europe, and in Africa. She was in the group of the first pilgrims to go to Akka. And again, that first pilgrimage of the Baha'is from America to go to the presence of Abdul Baha is so beautiful. But I would like to mention one thing that is related to Lua. Abdul Baha looked at Lua and told Lua with a smiling face, "Your heart is burning with the love of God, and it's manifest on your face." And Abdul Baha said, "Gives me a great joy to look at your face." And Abdul Baha asked Lua to become like a Tahiri. And Lua said, "No, thank you." To try every effort to become like Tahiri. Lua said, "I know myself. I am too weak and too filled with faults. And if I pray this prayer to God that I would become like Tahiri, God knows I'm lying." Abdul Baha told her, "You must." So she decided to obey Abdul Baha. And Abdul Baha said, "Okay, now that you have accepted, I'm going to give you a special gift, a very unique gift." And guess what was that gift? The gift of the eloquent speech. And she became a great speaker. She had a beautiful voice, astonishing words she used for her talk. Her talk was so simple, so basic, but so moving. It was like a magnet to draw the hearts of the human being. And you know what Abdul Baha said? He said the American Baha'i community should rise up and follow the example of Lua. And the guardian, Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith, called Lua the immortal Lua, the mother teacher of American Baha'i community, the herald of the covenant. We have to have a confidence that Abdul Baha is with us always, as he was with Lua.
I am with you always, whether living or dead. I am with you to the end. As ye have faith, so shall your powers and blessings be. This is the balance. This is the balance. This is the balance. I say unto you, declared Abdul Baha, that anyone who will rise up in the cause of God at this time shall be filled with the Spirit of God, and that he will send his host from heaven to help you, and that nothing shall be impossible to you if you have faith.
Thank you. Isn't this great that we have such a confirmation? It gives us all the power and strength we need. And again, Abdul Baha gives us the formula to us Baha'i women, how we should be among the other women in the society. Do you want to hear the formula? Abdul Baha says, the handmaidens of God should reveal such attributes and attitudes amongst the women of the world as would cause them to stand out and achieve renown in the circle of women. That is, they should associate with them. They should associate with them with supreme chastity, steadfast decency, and unshakable faith, articulate speech, and eloquent tongue, irrefutable testimony, and high resolve. If we can only memorize that and try to be like that among the other women in our society, I'm sure we will shine. Beseech God that thou mayest attain unto all these bounties. In summary, what we are asked to do is to acquire spiritual power, increase in the virtues of wisdom. Work with a burning enthusiasm to spread the teachings of Baha'u'llah. It's not that hard, is it? As you know, there are many, many beautiful quotes in Baha'i writings about the role of women on establishing peace and stopping the war. It was so hard to choose one, but I hope you like the one Becky is going to share with us.
Strive that the ideal of international peace may become realized through the efforts of womankind. For man is more inclined to war than woman, and a real evidence of woman's superiority will be her service and efficiency in the establishment of universal peace.
Thank you. I would like to share an example that Abdul Baha uses. Abdul Baha says, when the end of the school year comes, what happens? They give an exam to the student. And that exam determines what is the capacity and the knowledge of each student. And Abdul Baha says, the women's action will prove their power, and it won't be any need to proclaim it by the words. Isn't this beautiful? That we strive to show our power with our spirituality. That there won't be any need to proclaim it by the words. So that is what is going to make us unique from the other women. I would like to thank my parents for giving the gift of this religion. And I would like to conclude with a prayer from Baha'u'llah, that the Baha'u'llah is asking us to reach to the station that we could distinguish the foul smell from the fragrance.
Help them then, O God, to reach forth through the power of thy sovereign might towards such a station that they can readily distinguish every foul smell from the fragrance of the raiment of him who is the bearer of thy most lofty and exalted name, that they may turn with all their affections towards thee and may enjoy such intimate communion with thee that if all that is in heaven and on earth were given to them, they would regard it as unworthy of their notice and would refuse to cease from remembering thee and from extolling thy virtues.
Thank you. I would like to thank my friend Becky Rice for reading the writing this morning. Thank you.